Guys, I'm hiding from the government right now. They've raided my place. They've got guns. They saw that I know too much. I know too much about what's going on in the blasted government. So I'm hiding from them. I really could use monetary support in order to get enough money to persuade the government in a monetary fashion to stop bothering me and that I'm no threat. And one way you could do that is subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/MatthewDonald. There you can find bonus content for both my podcasts, The Ripwit and Paleobites. For the Paleobites bonus content, we discuss pop culture featuring prehistoric animals. And this month we're talking about The Land Before Time, the classic 1988 Don Bluth movie with a hell of a lot of sequels. But we don't talk about any of the sequels. We talk about the original movie. I hear there's footsteps. They're coming closer! Oh, wait, no. Okay, that was just my cat. Go away, cat. You're going to give away my hiding spot. Link is in the description where you can sign up to the Patreon. Thank you for your support, and have a lovely day. Have a better day than I am. Wait, what's that? Ah! Ah!
Roar, growl, snarl, bellow.
Welcome to Paleobites, the podcast banned in Bible Belt schools. My name is Matthew Donald, and each week I and a rotating series of guest co-hosts talk about and rate a genus of prehistoric animal, be it dinosaur, mammal, arthropod, and so on. This week I'm joined by a New Zealander who knows America better than this American does, Ben O'Regan. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. Kia everyone, and that's not true. I know America less than him. I just know random bits of trivia.
Yeah, well, you know at least that part of America better than I do. So...
Yeah. I try to make habit not to learn too much about bits of America, not because I dislike the country or anything, just because it's...
Oh, the country
so,
sucks, so I don't blame you.
No, it's more like just... Some things are so damn confusing when I try to wrap my head around them, like the way the government's organised compared to the relatively simple one we've got, where we don't even have an upper house and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for example, it's just like... Ben's got a headache. No more, basically.
It's headache-inducing, man, for real.
I find it bizarre that I can't wrap my head around it, though. Yet I can wrap my head around the intricacies of, like feudalism, like all the different ranks and stuff.
Well, it's basically modern feudalism, American politics. So, it's crazy stuff. I'm trying to think of a dinosaur-related question here. I'm running on empty here. So, you got one? You got one for me?
What's your favorite pterosaur?
Ooh, yes, Lyra, you have some things to say there.
Unfortunately, you're a bird, you're not a pterosaur, so you can't nominate yourself, Lyra.
Nope, sorry, you can't. You're not a pterosaur.
Oh, now your bird's giving me the evils.
Alright, I'd probably say Tapejara.
Now I suddenly feel like a small mouse running for a field being chased by a velociraptor. Bad bird.
Yeah, that could... yeah, or like that pig that was chased by the raptors at the beginning of Jurassic World.
So you said Tapejara, if I heard you correctly?
Yeah, Tapejara. I think that one's cool.
Yeah. I remember seeing some stuff about them in the Spec Ever community, and I think it might just be the paleontology community in general, like where they think it's now... Not like it was depicted in Walking with Dinosaurs where all they had was the head.
No, I think it's smaller or something.
Yeah, but a bit like As Darkids, it spent a lot of time on the ground, so it might have been the equivalent of a flying pig, essentially.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like that.
Like a bit of a bruiser, a general browser.
Yeah, I think they might have thought it was a frugivore, too, which would be quite cool, so... But yeah, this is just... I love that crest. That crest is so cool and huge.
It is. Some pterosaurs had really weird head ornamentation. You're like, how the heck did they fly with that thing?
Yeah, like what's that one that begins with a D? It's like Dajunkus. I don't know how what's called, but the one with like the weird whale-like baleen in its mouth. Like,
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, it's it looks a bit like a flamingo almost.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a flamingo. That one's weird.
Yeah. I was in a book I used to have on pterosaurs that had all these beautiful restorations in them. It was around about the time when we were starting to, learn pterosaurs weren't in decline at the end of the Cretaceous. That they were more than just fish eaters, like a lot more diverse than they were depicted at the time. But that unfortunately, it was a case of a book that I loved to death. I read it so much it fell apart.
That sucks. It sucks when you have those old books like that. But hey, digital recreations are good. PDFs, I'm sure you can find it online. But
Yeah, nothing beats having an actual book in your hand, though, in my opinion.
That's true. That's true. For my Megazoic books, I've wondered sometimes if I should publish a giant one that has all four of them together. My parents are like, no one would buy that. That's too big for you don't want a 1,200 page book. And I'm like, but I would want that. So
yeah, and there are people that buy Lord of the Rings as it was meant to be published, which isn't split in the free, but is one big back-to-back thing.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I might see I might see what happens. I think it'd be cool to have like a cover that has all four covers kind of together and like this interesting thing. It's like the complete Megazoic saga. It's just, I'd get that. Tiny text.
You could do that, and then as a freebie in it, you could put your one of your older versions, like the very first, or the old sci-fic one with the clone army.
Yeah, I could put that as like a special edition sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about Rapetosaurus this week.
Another Madagascar dinosaur.
Yes, that seems to be a theme here. So,
blame me, I did pick them.
no, that's okay. No, I like it. When else are we going to talk about them? Maybe eventually. So, it means Rapeto lizard. Rapeto in Malagasy folklore he's a giant deity who made the geological features of the Madagascar home, and that's how Rapetosaurus got its name. Like, it's like a giant god that, like, stomped around and formed the earth. So, like, that's nice and all, but 50 feet's kind of small for a sauropod, so I don't know if it could do that, but, it's probably...
Even for a titanosaur, it's pretty modest, because not all titanosaurs are big either.
No, exactly. Yeah, but some titanosaurs were enormous, but this one was kind of smaller. It wasn't the smallest one. We'll get to that. But like I said, it was a titanosaur sauropod, a diverse group of long-neck dinosaurs that thrived in the Cretaceous. It was 49 to 54 feet / 15 to 16.5 meters long, 10 to 12 tons. It was an herbivore. It lived in the Late Cretaceous, 70 to 66 million years ago. Again, another victim of the meteor.
And as one book would put it, titanosaurs represent the final flourish of the sauropods.
They really did.
They're not only the final branch of the sauropods, but while they seem to have disappeared in North America outside of Alamosaurus.
Yeah, Alamosaurus is the only one, yeah.
Yeah, which probably represents some kind of island crossing thing or something, that, or they just didn't get preserved in the fossil record, because you had them around the mid-Cretaceous and that, like, when Acrocanthosaurus was around.
Right.
Like, sauropod species, not necessarily titanosaurs, but they... excuse my rambling, everyone. Basically,
no, of course, no.
They really do represent a final flourish. Like, they weren't just the last group, but they were flourishing, literally.
Mm-hmm. I think that's cool. Like, I think the Alamosaurus is cool. Like, that's a sauropod that lived at the same time and place as T-Rex. That's weird to think about. Normally, I don't think of T-Rex with long necks, but there you go.
I remember seeing one DVD I picked up. It was like a box of these cheap little CGI dinosaur films. I think it was End of the Dinosaur. Something like it shows a bunch of Alamosaurus going for a walk when the meteor hits, and it shows the forces, like the wind force set up for it is so strong, it like sends them flying, and it's shredding their skin off them.
Oh God, that's brutal.
Honestly, like, if there's some way we can go back in time, as stupid and crazy as this sounds, by my juvenile mind, but send a giant person back with a giant space bat and just whack that asteroid into Mars, because who gives a damn about the Martians?
That's one way to stop it. Yes. Anyways, location Madagascar, like we said earlier. It was described in 2001. Pop culture appearances. There's two. There's in the documentaries Planet Dinosaur and Dinosaur Revolution. So that's cool stuff. Despite its rather small size for a long neck, Rapetosaurus was not the smallest of its family. That would be Rocosaurus, which was 26 feet / 8 meters long, which is barely a sauropod at that point, I reckon. There's got to be a minimum size. Otherwise, anything could be a sauropod. My dog could be a sauropod.
If you want to count the prosauropods, then some of them were blimmin' small. I think there was one species, I can't remember the name for the life of me, but it was like mouse-sized or hand-sized.
Oh, Mosasaurus. Mosasaurus is what's called. It means mouse lizard. That one actually... We now know that the small one we found was actually a juvenile. The big one was about maybe 6 or 7 feet long, which is still small, but
Yeah.
So.
And if you want a comparison of a juvenile Rapetosaurus, you can picture it next to a human, and it would only be a bit taller due to the long neck. So they're definitely not very big. Like, still a considerable animal,
not, they're
especially
not.
by mammal standards, but, like, by dinosaurian
50
standards.
feet long. That's huge. And also for Madagascar dinosaurs, that's huge. That's, as far as we know, this is the biggest dinosaur in Madagascar. So
Yeah, it's probably a case of dwarfism because it's an island.
right. I mean, it's a big island, but it's still an island. So
Yeah, and even big islands like stuff from, I think, Madagascar had pygmy hippos at one point.
yes. Well, like pygmy hippos, and but it did have the elephant bird. So but there's also island gigantism. That's the thing too. So
Oh yeah, like a lot of the Indonesian islands, even when they were joined as by lower sea levels, you had like the stegodon elephants. I think they were elephants. They were relatives of elephants, but they went tiny, and then like rats and some of the lizards went huge.
oh yeah, like the megalania went after the stegodon. That's the big lizards ate small elephants.
Yeah, because it turns out Megalania wasn't just confined to Australia. The Komodo dragon basically is Megalania, if I recall.
No. Komodo dragon is basically a smaller version of Megalania. So,
and that's telling you something because Megalania, like the Komodo dragon, was big. So picture Megalania, and you
Megalania was about 20 feet long or something. Like,
yeah, it's basically a Victorian reproduction of Megalosaurus minus the horn.
That's true. Oh man, I like those Victorian versions of dinosaurs though. Like the meat eaters.
There's something
like
charming about them, eh?
They are like the four-legged meat-eating dinosaurs. That I don't know. I also like I watched Fantasia recently. It's on Disney Plus, and I just was watching that dinosaur one. It's just so cool to see these old.
Isn't that last march of the dinosaurs like where they're all marching to their death after a massive drought?
Yeah, that's right. There's the drought, but then earlier on, there's just them hanging out and eating stuff in a swamp, and there's a huge list of creatures they have in that. Like they have Corythosaurus, they have Plagiasaurus, they have Triceratops, they have Chasmosaurus, I forget which one it is. Stegosaurus, T-Rex, Hypsilophodon, Troodon, Archaeopteryx. There's a lot of different ones that they have. So
I think this was
cool.
that. It had like the old 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, what have you, depiction of sauropods as swamp dwellers, didn't it?
Yes, they did. They were in the swamp. They were eating stuff in the swamp. They were always wading in water. And the same thing with the duck-billed dinosaurs. They thought they were swamp-dwelling in this too. So you'd see a
I don't blame older
underwater.
scientists and paleontologists for reconstructing them like that, but I can't for the life of me understand how they would think all the same that something like that would be able to support itself in water. It would have crushed its lungs.
Yeah, well, I guess they were thinking rather it is less likely for it to have crushed its lungs rather than it crushing it being able to walk at all.
Yes.
So.
And I can see the water dwelling reconstructions of them being better than, say, the reconstructions that they did of some sauropods where they had them like their limbs sprawling like a lizard, the L-shaped limbs, and that they had to have trenches to crawl around. I'm like, where are the trenches coming from?
That's true. Oh, man.
Like, is there some race of time-traveling mole people that go and dig trenches for dinosaurs?
Well, it's like some creatures, you look at them, it's like, we need to figure out how these basic functions work. This is... Again, this is another tangent, but who cares? It's fun stuff. Dinotherium, the elephant relative that has the downward-facing tusks?
Yes, I know the one, because it wasn't walking with Beast.
Yes. A lot of people also depict it with a short trunk, but the problem with it having a really short trunk, even if it had a short trunk, was that we have found, like, its knee bones, it couldn't kneel. It couldn't really kneel too much. So, if it had a short trunk, how in the world did it drink?
Good point. Because don't they think it used its tusks to, like, scrape trees open or something?
Right, but, and that makes sense, I guess. But, the only way it could drink, if it had a short trunk and it couldn't kneel, it would have to wade waist deep into water. So...
There's some even weirder ones. I forget what it goes, like, Playbelodonts, some of they're the ones where their bottom jaw goes out all the way. Yeah, scoops.
The scoop ones, yeah.
Yeah, basically they're duck-billed elephants.
I'm definitely doing an episode on those someday. You can see how interesting Rapetosaurus is when we're not really talking about it. It's basically just a normal long neck in Madagascar, but As well as being a titanosaur, Rapetosaurus was more specifically a saltosaurid titanosaur, which includes the armored Saltosaurus, of course, and
Of
also
South
includes the
America.
gigantic and the gigantic North American Alamosaurus that we mentioned earlier, and the absolute mouthful. Oh God, here we go. Opisthocoelicaudia.
What?
Man, I've always hated that one.
Yeah. So it doesn't include other types of titanosaurs like my favorite, Argentinosaurus, or
No, it's not Argentinosaurus.
Dreadnoughtus.
Yeah, exactly, those ones, no. This family of longnecks lived all throughout the southern continents, with Alamosaurus being the one example from North America, as we said earlier, as well as the subcontinents of Madagascar and India.
And they
here's the
definitely
thing
do seem
that-
to have been preyed upon by theropods because while
Yes.
scales and scutes aren't always evidence of defense or predation, they appear so common in some of these titanosaurs, or at least the ones that we find skin impressions of at any rate, that it definitely seems like they were being preyed upon by something. Like, we don't know for sure if, say, Giganotosaurus was a pack hunter, but it definitely does seem to have specialized in hunting sauropods.
Yes, it did. Well, that's the thing. We were talking about like how Tyrannosaurus lived in the same time and place as Alamosaurus, but we know for a fact, based on T-Rex's mouth, it didn't hunt the sauropods. Its mouth was too specialized for it. It would have been better off hunting the duck-billed dinosaurs and other smaller, medium-sized
And
ones.
if it was suicidal enough, given those horns, they probably do seem to have fed on ceratopians as well. And they probably, if they could get around the bony tail, they probably fed on ankylosaurids and the less dangerous notosaurids, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Something like that.
Polycanthus
I don't
and
know. We do know that Rapetosaurus was preyed on by Majungasaurus. We have teeth marks of Rapetosaurus fossils with Majungasaurus teeth marks on them, so...
And that was the main reason I
that's
suggested
cool.
we cover Rapetosaurus, because it was fed on by somebody we mentioned previously.
Well, the nice thing about... So here's the cool thing about Madagascar, to kind of bring all this home. In the wet season, many tons of debris would wash through these channels and there was a bunch of river channels in Madagascar that flooded a coastal floodplain. And in the wet season, many tons of debris would wash through these channels and bury the carcasses of animals that died in the previous dry season. And this is what has made the animals in this area so well preserved.
And it probably, so from an environmental standpoint, if they didn't get swept up in that, if the floods left a lot of trees and debris on the ground, that'd probably be a real boon for Rapetosaurus and the herbivorous crocodiles and other animals dwelling there, because bonanza, it might be rotten, but at least you're not having to lean up and get it.
Right, exactly. The idea of herbivorous crocodiles is just so weird to me, but it's so cool.
Well, it's just like, granted, they weren't crocodiles, they were crocodilians. My bad.
Yeah, no, I know they weren't literally crocodiles.
Look at some of the extinct ones, like even during the Cenozoic, you had forms that they probably got outcompeted by land mammals that were also predators or omnivores. But like you just see, like there was one that could gallop. It had hoofs.
Yes, there was one, and I think there was one that was like that with like like downward-facing legs, like fully straight legs. That was lived so recently. The early Aborigines dealt with it, so that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and there was a similar case that like a lot of people think of the salties, the saltwater crocodiles in Australia as being big, but Australia's extinct freshwater crocodile is a species that I learned recently, so recently I can't even remember the damn name. But they dwarfed the saltwater crocodiles of Australia.
That's cool. Or like Purosaurus, which is a caiman from South America that lived up to 5 million years ago. That could get Dinosuchus sized. So,
oh gosh,
that's pretty
just
cool.
Goes to show, crocodilians aren't straight up living fossils. Even the more divergent ones tended to be in that they kept the body plan, but they're a lot more diverse than our current assortment.
They certainly were. That makes them cool.
And that's not to say that modern crocodiles are pathetic by any means. Just they were far more impressive in the past.
They are cool. And then they're other than birds, they're the modern day archosaurs. So they're the ones closely related to dinosaurs. So
well, I think birds, I mean, technically with the way cladistics works, like technically a mammal is still a fish if you want to stretch
That's
it. That's
true. We are still
like,
fish, aren't we? We're all fish.
Birds are more or less, even though they're still technically, they're dinosaurs, because they're aves, technically they're a new group, whereas crocodiles are still archosaurs.
Right.
Archosaurs,
well, and also, like, by that logic, birds are basically reptiles still, too, so...
Well, yeah, by going by that logic, we're still reptiles. I mean, technically,
by
synapsids
that logic,
weren't
we're all
reptiles,
fish.
But yeah.
Literally,
Yeah,
every tetrapod is a fish. So,
and literally every fish is a bacteria.
and literally, no, that's basically it. All right, so
Yeah, it's just it's not being super literal. It's just the way cladistics
Right.
work sometimes can be bloomin' weird.
it is. Anyways, Rapetosaurus. We're gonna rate this thing now, which, as you can tell, it's very interesting because we spent the whole episode talking about it. So,
My bad.
no, that's fun. But this happens a lot in the show where like the animal isn't really that great. Let's talk about other things. Like recently, I did an episode. Well, not recently. By the time this comes out, but like recently when recording this, I did Mesohippus, a little horse, and I'm like, there's not really much to talk about this one. So let's talk about Moby Dick and the whaling industry. So, so
Man, you just gave me an idea for a story.
oh, cool.
I mean, I can't write it because I haven't got any writing talent, but imagine Moby Dick, but it's a mosasaur and it's like time travelers chasing it.
That'd be cool. If it was a mosasaurus, Captain Ahab would lose far more than a leg from it. So I don't know.
Maybe not mosasaurus, maybe a like Chronosaurus, a
No,
plesiosaur
I
of
think it'd
some
be
kind.
cool. Anyways,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm gonna rate Rapetosaurus like a 30 million. I mean, it's all right. Maybe 20 million, honestly.
I'll give it 15 million because it's kind of plain.
Yeah, it's more interesting in its relationship to the other creatures around it.
Yeah, like it's by
itself.
no means a boring animal, but it's just nothing particularly interesting about it all the same. Like if you saw it in real life, it would be like seeing an elephant, you go, wow. Or maybe not an elephant. Elephants get more of a reaction than that, but like there's just way more interesting animals there.
It'd be like after seeing a bunch of African elephants, you finally see an Asian elephant. That's kind of what it is.
Smaller tusk, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah,
All
it'd be like if you were going to Jurassic Park and like first you were like Dr. Grant, then you saw like the famous bit from the start, the brachiosaurs all out moving in herds and eating from the trees, and then you see a Nigersaurus,
Right, Nigersaurus.
shovel face.
Yeah.
It'd
be like if you order a big pizza for the family and then you get a personal fan pizza or something. Nah, I don't know.
No, it'd be like you go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac and then someone gives you
One of those little
Happy Meal free pack of McNuggets.
Yeah, okay. It'd be like, no, that's basically it. All right, so, all right, well, that's it for this week. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can contact us at mattsd@methodicalcreator.com. For any general questions to me or any of the co-hosts, I could relay them. I always forget to say this. If you like the show, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That really helps the algorithm. So,
yeah. And if this particular episode does get voted low, I apologize if I was caused, but I know that even by our usual standards, we basically went on tangents a lot on this one. But
the tangents are the best
because it's such
part.
a boring dinosaur.
People love the tangents. So I think people like the tangents. So
yeah, they probably do. Just
it's who we are.
I can't seem to shape my ability to apologize for some.
No, it's good to be aware of one's potential, missteps. But I have a book series on Amazon, Megazoic, available for print and Kindle. There is a Rapetosaurus in it. It's the very first juggernaut dinosaur found. It's the only one they could call in the first battle in Chapter 3 of the first book. So they bring in a Rapetosaurus with missile launchers on its back. So good stuff. Well, that's it for this week. As I say at the end of every episode of Paleo Bites, well, that's a bit mean for a Rapetosaurus. More like